is being conducted both in person and via remote participation. A reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may either attend in person here in the City Council chamber or use any of our social media accounts for access. At this point, can you join me in a moment of silence for a former Lawrence High teacher who passed away last week? And now join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, councilors, we don't have any minutes to approve. We don't have any new business items. We do have, where is this? A tabled item. Can I have a motion to untable item 459-24, Business District Safety Initiative, brought to us by Captain Maurice Aguilar and Lieutenant Dan Fleming from the Police Department?
So move.
Motion has been made
Second.
By Councilor Reyes, properly seconded by Councilor Del Rosario. No discussion. Maria, can you do a roll call, please?
Councilor Gregorio del Rosario,
Yes.
Councilor Ana Levy,
Selena Reyes.
Councilor Levy's here.
Oh, Councilor Levis Day, okay, you don't
Yes,
see her.
she just got here.
Councilor Selena Reyes
Yes.
and Chair Stephanie Infante.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilors, we have Captain Aguilar and Lieutenant Fleming here with us tonight to go over the safety initiative that they are proposing. Gentlemen, you guys have the floor. And I want to make note for the record that they did bring this to us in a timely manner. It just, timing did not work in our favor when we scheduled the public safety meeting. Thank you. Captain?
Well, good evening to all. My name is Captain Maurice Aguilar of the Lawrence Police Department, 90 Lowell Street. I'm here with Lieutenant Dan Fleming, and we have two separate issues with regards to the initiative. I think that it will make clear sense to you why that is. We'll move right through it, but I think that there's been some confusion as to, you know, what one particular issue is, which is the business initiative that we would like to implement or begin implementing, and the secondary issue being conflated with the issue of homelessness. Again, which is a completely and utterly separate issue. There is a difference between homelessness, which is not in and of itself a crime, there's no such thing as a status crime, and that of vagrancy. What the business initiative looks to address is the issues of vagrancy. In response to numerous complaints and noticeable rise in vagrancy, panhandling, loitering, trespassing, and a lot of related issues, the mayor, DePena, called a special meeting to address the concerns. The mayor has pledged to provide the necessary economic, material support to mitigate the impact of these public nuisances on our business corridors. Let's see if that helps, I hope. Can you still hear me okay? All right. So the Lawrence Police Department, in collaboration with the Department of Community Development, DPW, and other city partners, wishes to launch a multifaceted, multi-tiered approach, which we've dubbed the Business Corridor Safety Initiative. What the initiative includes is basically site-focused law enforcement, increased police activity by way of site-specific bike patrols, directed patrols, etc., public education and dedicated communication lines, which we've provided, also business support, site evaluation related to deterrence, security, and the like, and impact analysis as we go through evaluating what we have done and what, obviously, the impact of that is. And this is all, again, we've had many complaints from the business community. We've had many vagrants, many displaced individuals, some local, some external, and they've really flooded the streets right now. They're completely and utterly visible. They've created nuisances for patrons of these businesses, unsafe and unsanitary conditions throughout our businesses, and some even as close to the Boys and Girls Club where our children, spend most of their time. So we have to do something about that. So far, we've entered what's called Phase 1, which is basically just informational. We've had constituent meetings with business owners, stakeholders, and to this end, we printed and distributed most, if not all, of the 300 flyers to businesses surrounding the initial site that we're going to hit, which is the epicenter. That's Essex and Broadway sections, and also the businesses in South Union and South Broadway Street. Phase 1 includes the information dissemination and gathering, the site evaluations. The evaluations of these sites includes environmental engineering strategies, which is fencing, lighting, cameras. We're educating our business owners as far as why they're required, where they're required, and some of the external resources that they can access to get perhaps some funding for this in order to help them out. We're also educating them with regards to the trespass and loitering signs that are going to be required once we enter phase. Still doing it? Yes. Can you hear me? I'll move a little closer. Yeah. Okay.
Councilor Reyes, can you hear Captain Aguilar okay? Councilor Reyes?
Yes.
Okay, all right, sorry.
That's okay. Again, along with the business education, we're also teamed up with several people in a partnership with Director of Community Development, Ms. Director Pimentel, DPW Director Jorge Jaime, Homeless Coordinator, and others that right now are helping us with the first phase. One of the things that we want to do is we want to understand how we got here first and foremost. So we're engaging in population demographics evaluation. We want to know who the locals versus non-local individuals are, because at this stage, the preliminary numbers indicate that approximately 30% of the individuals that we deal with, and we're looking at a population of approximately 300 people that are displaced, and we believe that less than 30% are actual local people. And by local, I don't mean Lawrence individuals. I mean Merrimack Valley. It could be from Methuen, it could be from somewhere else, but they're local individuals. So we want to know what it is that prompted the other 70% to come to the community. We've done park and walks, we've done interviews, we have a general idea of what it is that's working against us in these matters, and we'll address that in phase 2. But a lot told us has to do with the fact that they're, quote unquote, one young lady told us that everyone knows that if you're homeless, Lawrence is the best place to be. And that's because they get a multitude of services, food, clothing, rehab centers, methadone clinics, all sorts of things. All of this we're trying to address at another level and at a deeper level, but that's what we're understanding, at this time. We are also looking at some of the issues with the encampment sites. This is something that has attracted them too, which is the ability to establish a homestead, if you will, somewhere. And we're working very diligently with DPW. Dan will get into all of these aspects of it in order to reclaim some of the city property. I want to be very clear because this is miscommunication about whether the police are moving the homeless and they're doing X, Y, Z against the homeless, and that couldn't be further from the truth. What we are attacking is vagrancy. If you're homeless, nobody does more for the homeless community in the city of Lawrence than we do, and Dan will get into exactly what we do and how we do it.
Which you just stated is part of the issue.
Right. Well, some of the, and there's a lot of validity to that, but there's going to be some changes with regards to that because, again, we're making it a little bit too easy in that regard. And although we empathize with a lot of the situations that these individuals see, one of the things we'd like to do is we'd like to find out what organizations are responsible for transporting them here. And we'd like to how should I say, sort of kind of invigorate their desire to move back home so that we can deal with our issues. During phase 2, we will be coming back to you with regards to potential city ordinances. As of late, in June, the Supreme Court in the United States in Grants Pass versus Johnson indicated that and found that homeless encampments and just, doing away with homeless encampments or any city ordinances outlawing them are not a violation of their rights. So to that end, Lowell has already enacted, Brockton has already enacted, and this is a little bit of concern because once they get moved out, if we don't enact,
They're gonna come
they're
here.
gonna come here. And then we'll have a lot more than 300. So we have to be proactive, we have to move ahead of this thing, we have to think out of the box, we have to take into consideration legal factors, strategic factors. We have to, tighten up as far as what it is that's attracting the people here, because there's a way to dry that well, if you will. We've discussed that with some of our business partners, and so we will get to that. Again, at this stage here, I just want to let you know kind of where we're going with this, what phase 1 entails with just information gathering and some education to our business community, and we're going to be moving down, once we gather the right information, down the right path as far as trying to mitigate this and eventually, bring it down to a manageable level. Will it ever go away altogether? Not likely. You've got the city of Los Angeles with a $12.6 billion budget. They haven't been able to do much with it. I suspect that we can do a lot with it if we attack it the right way and look at it holistically. So that is my presentation as far as the vagrancy aspect of it, the impact on our businesses, and the reason why we started at the business epicenter, and we're going to move on out, so that we have no confusion as far as the homeless and humanitarian aspect of it. Lieutenant Fleming will tell you as a handout, so we've just provided some of the activities that we've assisted DPW with as far as reclaiming some of the city property, doing it in a humane way, but getting it done nonetheless. So I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, and if you don't have any questions for me.
I think we'll hold the questions for the end.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to know the Councilor Anna Levy is present.
Oh, yes. Counselor Levy has joined us, and she's here with us tonight. Present.
Council, good evening. Thank you for having us. Regardless of how we got here, we're here. The homelessness is an issue in the city, and I was tasked with taking a look at it and devising a plan on how we're going to deal with it. I was originally asked to look at it on the auspices of the opioid epidemic, and that's how I originally started looking at, how we deal with people that are dealing with substance use disorder. And that quickly led me into the
Can you move the mic a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. A little more soft-spoken than my counterpart. So when looking at this, if we're talking about just the homeless, it's hard to carve out one issue. Because if you're homeless in the city of Lawrence, you're probably dealing with a substance use disorder, you're probably dealing with a mental health disorder, you may be dealing with both. Regardless of what they're dealing with, it's obvious that they're responsible for a disproportionate amount of crime that they're committing in the city, but they're also victims of a disproportionate amount of crime. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is the quality of life, and they're disturbing the quality of life of other people that are just trying to get along in life. It's a difficult task to take on from the police department because they're asking us to deal with it, and half the population thinks we're not doing enough enforcement, and the other half of the population thinks we should be more humane in our enforcement. That being said, we've come up with a few different strategies that seem to be paying some dividends. Before I go any further, I just want to kind of lay out a few numbers to give you the real gravity of the situation we're dealing with. In our city, by our count, we go out there on a weekly basis, and we meet monthly with our local partners to get a head count, so it's pretty accurate, although it's sometimes hard to get a hard number because some people become homeless, then get housed, and then become homeless again. But our last count is we have approximately 300 homeless individuals in the city that we know of. Up to year to date, we've had 159 overdoses in our city. We've had 131 non-fatal overdoses, largely due to the efforts of our first responders providing Narcan to those people.
I'm sorry, what was the time period of this?
This year
This
to
year.
date. 131 non-fatal overdoses. We had 28 fatal overdoses. We Section 35s, which is a provisional law that if someone has, that we're aware of, that has a severe alcohol or drug order, we can literally do a civil warrant and bring them before the court to get them services, whether they, want to have the service or not. We've served, this year alone, 87 Section 35s. And amongst that also, we're dealing with mental health issues. We've done 211 Section 12s, which is someone's in danger themselves or others. We bring them sometimes against their will to a clinician to get those services. I'm referring to the Essex County DA, the Essex County data system. In 2023, we did follow-up interviews with 546 individuals that were in need of service. And so far to date, in 2024, 835 individuals we did follow-up with. So we're looking at this problem holistically, and we know that it's not just a police issue, that we have to rely on our community partners. And I think Captain Aguilar referred to some of them. We've tapped into community development. They've been a huge asset to helping us address this problem. The homeless coordinator, Kelly Birchall, been an asset as well. Groundwork Lawrence has helped us clean up many of our encampments along the rail trail. I can't say enough about the DBW that actually does the groundwork of going in and actually cleaning it up. Casa Esperanza has provided us clinicians to go out and get the follow-up interviews and providing them services, along with the STAR program, Greylock Family Health Center, Methadone Clinic, Mercy House, Daybreak Shelter, New Beginnings, AdCare, Lazarus Health, and Lawrence General, just to add a few of the people of our community partners. And those community partners I just mentioned, we meet on a weekly basis. We identify people that need a service, and we try to provide them the services. With that backdrop, we still have the issue of these homeless encampments. I refer to your packet. It shows you a city map of where these encampments, that we knew these encampments were, and we started addressing them in February. If you look to the part of your packet that shows the pictures, you can look at Bay State Road. That was before, in February we started, that was our first encampment we took over. The before and after pictures, as you can see, there's been a drastic change. The Boys Club, where, again, we have, children playing right adjacent to where these homeless camps were. West Street Park, the Lowell Street Bridge, and Doyle Street. So those have been the major encampments in the one in there that we, behind La Fruiteria on Manchester Street was the other encampment that we took over. So those, if you look at those pictures, you see what we were dealing with. People living in the encampments. The way we addressed it is we'd go there weeks beforehand with clinicians, with counselors, with drug counselors, offering them services, offering them housing options, offering them detox options. But at the end of the day, once you offer those services, some of them would have taken those services. If they chose not to, which many of them don't, we understand that in a humane way. We give them a timetable. We say, all right, in a certain amount of days, we're going to come back here and you have to be removed. For the most part, they've been pretty cooperative. They voluntarily relocate themselves, and then we clean up that encampment using the DPW and all our resources. Once we clean up those resources, we then reach out to all the area businesses and some of the area neighbors. We give them literally phone numbers where they can call our unit in real time, and we do relentless follow-up, not to allow them to come back to repopulate that area. This has been very successful. If you look at those pictures, you can see that we made some great inroads to cleaning those areas up, but it's also caused unintended consequences of now these people are now kind of displaced and walking around in our community, causing some disturbances in our business district. That's the next phase of this, to try to figure out how we can mitigate that. But that's been our approach, with a humane kind of tilt of offering services and then going in there and giving them a hard date when they have to be removed, and then removing them and then cleaning up the area, then doing relentless follow-up. But I feel any questions in regards to that, if you'd like.
Aside from our business district, I'm seeing an increase in South Lawrence as well. I've reported it many times to the city. I don't know what else we can do, but it sounds like we are trying to find something from what you guys presented. So my point is, it's not just the business communities. I was having conversations with Lieutenant Cirillo over a constituent concern. Now we're seeing a mini encampment. It hasn't become an encampment yet, but it's becoming an issue, a nuisance, I should say, on Rose Street. So we cleaned up the side of the Boys and Girls Club, but now they're coming into South Lawrence. I'm happy. Like, these before and after photos are amazing. I'm so grateful for the work that you guys are doing. This is long time coming, and I wish we had this on display to show to the public what we're looking at right now. But I don't want us to forget about the residents. I understand it's a major issue. Like, sorry to interrupt you, Lieutenant. When was it? When the fire department had their boot fundraiser. That same day, I saw needles in front of family pools, and I immediately reported it, and it was taken care of by LPD and DPW right away. So I definitely see the impact in our businesses, and I see how it could be an annoyance. I just don't want us to lose the focus on the residents either.
So what we're doing drastically differently than in the past is, before, we didn't look at it as like a police matter. We'd go there, we'd have them trespass and move them all the way. Needles was not concerned, garbage was not concerned, and the wellness of the person we just trespassed was not concerned. And that really was a heartless way to look at it. So now with all these partners we have, we then call the Gray Lawrence Family Health Center. Today's a perfect example. The person from the director of the Boys Club called me and said, hey, there's a tent on McFarland Court. That was today. We sent someone over there, we took down the tent, we immediately called Gray Lawrence Family Health Center, who sent someone there and cleaned up all the needles. It's a real-time effect. We knew that when we start displacing these encampments, that they're not going away immediately, they're going somewhere. So we're gonna have to do relentless follow-up. What we need to do is have open communication with all the community, and when they call us, we have to have real-time response. We can provide that real-time response as long as we have support from the city and our community partners. It's not a police matter, we're just the tip of the spear. We're the people they call first, and once we get there, we now have the ability to pull different levers to get certain things done, whether that's calling the DPW to clean up the garbage, or calling Gray Lawrence Family Health Center to clean up the needles, or calling Kelly Frazier to kind of try to get a placement for the person. So we're really looking at this problem as not a police matter, not a crime matter, but as a community matter, as a holistic way of looking at this. We're just the bell ringer. You know, they call the police and we evaluate what's going on. We try to juxtapose whether it's a crime matter, and most times it's not a severe crime matter. And then we kind of lean on our community partners and say, hey, this isn't a police matter, what can you do? And we've had huge success. We've now, with the relationships we've built with all these community partners, we're on a first name basis, a phone call basis, so when we make a phone call in real time, it gets addressed. And today's a perfect example. I got a phone call this morning at 8:30 from the Boys Club, and by noon time, it was cleaned up, all the needles were gone, and clearly the person that was contended there realizes that's not the place to go. Where that person goes next is a mystery, but they're gonna go somewhere, and wherever they go, we'll do the same thing. We'll go there, we'll support them with whatever community assets we have, but at the end of the day, we're gonna be concerned with the abutting people that live at those locations too. They have the right to live there in a peaceful harmony without dealing with some of the aftermath of the homeless.
And before I pass it on to my colleagues, there's two things that is actually one that we don't discuss enough when it comes to our homelessness issue here in the city of Lawrence. Aside from the free services that we offer, a big factor of why we have this issue is because of the drugs that are available on our streets. And sometimes I see the bus, sometimes, I know it's a lengthy process to come back that, and sometimes more often than not a dangerous process. But we have to lit a fire on this, because if we take away the services, they're still gonna come for that, because of that.
Without a doubt, and be cognizant of the fact that we also work hand in hand with our street narcotics unit, and so when we have those issues, we'll ask them to kind of ramp up their enforcement in that area too. And we do a pretty good job highlighting who's the homeless person who has an addiction problem and who's there trying to take advantage of them by selling them drugs. And in one hand, we offer those persons the person's suffering with addiction, we offer them all sorts of services in a humane way. We have side conversations, we treat them with dignity, and the person we know that's selling the drugs, we'll call the drug unit and say, hey, we've identified that person, and, you know, use the full extent of the law to get rid of them. So we are looking at this holistically, both with our community partners, but also internally with our police department. We have a very active drug unit, probably the most active drug unit, definitely in the Merrimack Valley, maybe on the East Coast, and we utilize them very, very well. We communicate back and forth with them. And we also communicate when they're arresting someone who has an addiction problem, they'll reach out to us and we'll reach out to the court and say, listen, you don't necessarily have to send this person to jail, many times they won't, but we'll disclose them, hey, they have a drug problem, let's try to get them treatment through the court. So we're working hand in hand with our partners at the courthouse. Probation officer, Tio Concepcion has been a huge partner with us. And we now communicate. This is really novel. This didn't happen, 4 years ago. For the first time, the police department is spearheading conversations with, detox centers. We're spearheading conversations with hospitals. We're spearheading conversations with our courts, and we're connecting all of them to hey, this again. We're the first person to call. The open communication now. It's monumental. We meet every single week. We have over 37 people that meet on the hub meeting, all bringing different skill sets to that, whether that be a detox center or the hospital or the Great Lawrence Family Health Center or probation, and we all kind of put our heads together saying, all right, with this one individual, what's the best case scenario? What can we do for them? And then we do our best and we move on to the next case scenario. So we are really taking this on as a partnership in the community.
My last comment on this, another thing that we don't shed as much light as we should, and this might be a little too much to say, but unfortunately the reality is, and this is not just in the city of Lawrence, this is any city that has a poverty issue. How can I say this? Poverty is a business. It's a business. Many organizations and cities, municipalities, they get many grants for this type of stuff. So while we're here, and this is just a comment, it's not for you guys to respond or anything, you don't have to. We're here sitting on this side, and you guys are out on the streets trying to improve this, but at the end of the day, how much progress are we, we've been at this for years, how much progress are we actually doing as a whole, as a community? And to me, I've always wondered, does it come down to the business side of this? Because we get a lot of money
I agree with you 100%. And when I first got into this, I said, all right, I'll spearhead this. And we sat down and I started attending meetings. And it quickly dawned on me, all these people were at the same meetings and they were all kind of redefining the problem, but no one's really come up with solutions. Why I think we made some really good headway as a police department is because we're not funded by grants. We're not funded by this. It's our problem no matter what. And at first, a lot of these police departments were very hesitant because they don't want to give up their information. They don't want to give up their numbers because that is reliant on them to move forward. But because we're spearheading it and we're the catalyst for the communication sharing, we're seeing some success. And now that we're tracking this, we have some empirical data to see where our successes are and where our gaps in services are, and we can address them going forward. But we're making, in the past 5 years, made huge headway. So you're spot on, and that is a problem. And the fact that the city, specifically the police department, is spearheading it, we've overcome those gaps in services. I'm sorry, can I say something?
So I understand what you're saying. I'm just going to touch on a point there. You captured it. We've been going on at it for many, many years. But what we see is a pendulum swing. It's a social pendulum swing. It comes and it goes. For a long time, we addressed our drug issues by zero tolerance operations. Just on October 30th and 31st, we had another zero tolerance operation. The zero tolerance operations then were supplanted with more humanitarian, aid and approach. There are, in fact, drug courts now and things of that nature. They try to decriminalize it. We see where that's leading, and though now the pendulum is swinging back again where we know that we have to take other types of action. Without mentioning anyone in particular, we have piqued the interest of certain board of directors. That's a very powerful organizations. Those that are capable to operate above our level, and those are the ones that can drive the well, if you will, is some of these contributing factors, contributing programs, and stuff like that, without letting too much out of the bag at this time.
Thank you.
Once we start to make the atmosphere here less welcoming for those, not people suffering from mental illness, I want to make that very clear, but for those that are, on another level, seeking drugs, seeking to sell drugs, seeking to use drugs, seeking to come here for that, then that's a law enforcement issue, and we do that better than anybody else. And we're gonna get back on that pendulum, we're swinging the other way, and we're turning it the other way, but we need the support of those that can at least, if you could shut off the flow of you know, of these contributing factors, we could do then our bit, which is what we specialize in. Everything else, we can set up a task force, work with other people, and, you know, we attack it from different avenues, which we're doing now. But in the meantime, this is where we're going. It's gonna be a little bit slow, but once we get going, we're gonna start cooking. As far as any concerns about overflow into the residential areas, we will not tolerate that under any circumstance. We have our officers are very proactive. And again, we have dedicated lines where you can call directly. Hey, listen, I see the same woman in South Broadway, you know, at Walgreens, sitting there, you know, cruisers come and go, what's the deal? Well, we have dedicated lines for that. You call us and we'll take care of it. But again, we attack from all directions, but we're not gonna allow our residents to be bothered by this. We have our eye on them as well. So I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you.
we-
Thank you.
we
Councilor
recognize it.
Rosario.
Thank you.
Thank you, through you. And I'm going to piggyback right on what you said. And the last time I walked with Lieutenant Fleming by the fruteria, I said it. We have so many negative grants, and they are, a lot of people applaud. Oh, we got $350,000 for this, $500,000 for that. But it's for the opioids, and those are not, I wish we could not get those and we get ready of those programs. And if we don't get those and we get ready of the programs, we get ready of the issue, hopefully, right? But no, we applaud us. And I serve one of the districts that is more hurting for it, and it's a district that gets more money for it. But how much money actually is going into that? Right now, probably we got a task force now. But all the millions of dollars that we get on an every year basis, it doesn't go directly to that. And I want to thank you guys for it, because a couple of days ago I felt sorry, and I felt sorrow in my heart, because one of your partners that work closely with you, voiced it out on Facebook that the city is getting money to help homeless, and what we're doing is kicking them out. How are we supposed to help them if we don't take them out? And it's one of your greatest partners, and I have the screenshot all over my phone, and I know a lot of people got it. And if this is your job, I know you're watching, this is your job, you should help. You shouldn't trust it. If you know what's going on, you should say the truth. That's my point. And when it comes to the business making money, I have one business, and I'm going to name it, which I got a big issue with. Greater Lawrence Family Hair Center. They're great help in the city, but they have an issue giving syringes out on Water Street. And I sit on that premises, and I've been going year through year, and they know me. They give me the wrong schedule. They never have a schedule set up where they're going to pick it up or how they're going to pick it up. Or if they're going by call, that's great. Also, they told me that everybody that comes in have to bring a bag of used syringes to give a new bag of syringes. And I saw more than 20 people getting 10 bags of syringes without bringing a single dirty syringe. That's an issue. The last time, 2 years ago, I went there and I said, can we do something? And they said, well, they brought out all the buckets and said, we got the buckets. You get the people. I said, but you get the money. How should I get my own people to go pick up syringes on my area, which I got West Street Park full of syringes. Now they're going into, well, we kicked them out. The neighborhood association that's getting ready on the Arlington neighborhood kicked them out of there because there was a couple of them that's sleeping on the slide with the kids, and they found syringes. So I have an issue. Nobody wants to name those people, but I do. The Greater Lawrence Family Hair Center, as much as they help, they also hurt in our city with that program. And they need to somehow, somebody needs to sit there and see the operation on a daily basis. Also, ask them for a schedule, and you see how old their schedule is. And they tell you, this is the schedule. And when I went home with the schedule, it was 2 years old. They fire a guy, who was the guy that pulled out the buckets, and he showed me the buckets and told me to go pick them up myself. If I get that much money on grants, believe me, I will be picking up syringes everywhere in the city with my bare hands, because they get millions of dollars for that. So those are the issues also hurting our city. Even though they help, they do, I mean, they help a lot, but they also hurting our city on that. So we need to set somebody in there, or have somebody in there watching that operation on a daily basis, because that's where the syringes come from. Is that they don't buy syringes at Walgreens. They don't buy syringes at CVS. They don't buy syringes. They go and pick them up. Who's giving them up?
You know, Councilor De Rosario, you really, you hit it on the nose here, and that's part and parcel of what I was alluding to before. Some of these grants, some of these programs amount to no more than taking candy from the devil. You know, because the benefits of these grants far outweigh the burdens on our community, far outweighed by any benefits that they may, you know, provide to our community. And if it was just providing it to our community, that'd be one thing. But what we have here, and this is why it's important to have, you know, these particular boards on board and to maybe get up on the legislative level. What we have is, and this is my opinion, this is not the opinion of the mayor, of anyone else, this is my own personal opinion from my experience, from what I've seen. A lot of these programs appear to be engineered so that they are epicentered here. So they attract people from the outside. So they draw them away from certain other communities and bring them to our communities, because this is where the programs are held. This is where these grants are geared to. Some of these grants, and we scrutinize them heavily because we depend on them greatly, are not worth taking anymore, are not worth dealing with anymore. Because again, the burdens outweigh any benefits that we may have. And I just want you to know that we are scrutinizing those, and we're looking at ways of, that's one of the things I was saying about drying up the well, of just saying it's just not worth it to us anymore. You know, we have to take care of our people first, and if it was our people, we'd be all set, but we can't be attracting people from the outside, and we think we're getting something because we're getting a certain amount in a grant, but we're losing more on resources, our own manpower. It doesn't balance out, it doesn't equate for us.
One last thing, that the people doesn't look at it, methadone clinics, we have them in the city. They're not helping anybody anymore. It's just a business. And if you see the clients that go there, also, they're not even from the city. They have what they call take-homes. Those are people that come weekly and they give them the medicine and they take it home and they don't come back to the city. So, but they don't have it on their hometown, but they have it here. So it's a business. There's nobody, it's money involved, it's all kinds of stuff involved, and nobody look at them. And I saw people walking through the clinic the other day, legislators walking through the clinics, applauding what the methadone clinic is doing, which is killing our people, dirtying our city, and legislators walking through it, celebrating what the methadone clinic had done. But as the methadone clinic, how much have they even give to the city positive? They don't give scholarship. They don't care about scholarship. They don't give anything for the schools. They don't teach the kids that you shouldn't be coming here. No, they open, they bring people, they pay taxes now for these people. They pay transportation for these people to come to the clinic. That's how this business has get in. That's legal drugs. It's drugs in a legal way. So nobody's looking into those. And we have, I think it's 2 of them, and they were talking about opening a 3rd one. But Andover doesn't have one. I think Haverhill has one. Lowell has one. But those towns in New Hampshire and all those places, they don't have none of those. So why do we have them? Why nobody have focus on them and say, what positive impacts do you have in my community? They have none. Because the same way we have 30% of the homeless, it's probably 30% of people locally going and get methadone. It's the same thing. So we need to go, I know this is not going to end today. It's work that we need to do collectively between all of us, but those are the people that we need to call them here. They should be here giving us stats, not you guys. You guys are doing your job. They should give us stats saying, well, we're working on the police and this is what we're doing. This is our percentage. This is what we're going to do. The homeless coordinator should be here too, telling us how she's helping you with you guys. And it's a group of people that should be here. The family, Greater Lawrence Family Health Center also should be here. And saying, I'm partnering with the police to do this and get it done. And in the next meeting, we're going to be at this level. This is the number, like you guys are doing. But by yourself, I believe it, by yourself, it's a group of people that we need to get together, but we need to give also head. If we forget a little bit about the homeless, because they got no money, and we hit those big pockets that are actually profiting for those homeless, we will make a little difference.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Levy.
Thank you. No, my question was coming regarding also the methadone clinic. So right now, we have 2 methadone clinics.
Yes.
That is what we have right now. I just remember on the 1990 when we opened the first one. So there was a lot of meeting in the community that they opposed to have the methadone clinic due to the fact of what Council de Rosario was saying. So this is business. And they looking more to the money that this clinic is going to bring to the city than whatever the treatment or whatever that's all of the homeless that we have and all of the drugs added that we have in the city. So that was very bad, regarding having a clinic in here. Now we have 2, and they are thinking to open another one. But like I say, what they looking more was for the amount of money that they can bring to the city and how much money, and whatever that's they were doing or they're gonna do with those people that are on the street. Thank you, really, thank you for the work that you've been doing. I'm so grateful to see all of this area because I've been working most of the time, sometimes inclusive with Officer Abercano. I've been working from some of this area. And not just looking for the homeless for other things, but we haven't seen, camp made it by then. The question that I have, so what is attention follow-up 885? Are all these people belong to Lawrence, or these people are also belong to other cities?
The 800 follow-ups?
Yes, so we in this, the MS,
So a lot
you
of
have
that-
835, 2025 attention follow-ups. All the people belong to Lawrence, or they are people that also belong to other cities?
So if they go to another community, we contact that community. We're involved in Essex County Outreach, and that computer system allows us to upload anyone that's, if someone overdoses in the city from Newburyport, we upload that information, and Newburyport PD will get that information, and they'll do an outreach on their own. So we're able to track everyone in our city that we do outreach for. So that 800 number is just Lawrence residents, but everyone else from all the other communities, we're in contact with them as well. So that 800 number may be misleading a little bit, because if someone overdoses twice, we'll do 2 contact with them. If they have multiple events, we'll reach out to them multiple times.
When you get somebody that is belong to another city, you also charge the other city for whatever the expenses that you have been incurred?
No, because usually there's not really an expense occurred. So if it's on the mental health side, we partner with Casper Esperanza. They're based out of Tewksbury, although the clinician that works for us is a Lawrence resident. She's bilingual. She'll do off all those for us. So Casa Esperanza will take on that burden of paying her. If it's a drug outreach, we simply will contact the person and offer them services and then direct them on where else to go. But the city doesn't take on the cost of giving them the services.
So the city taking the cost?
We do not take on the cost. We tell them what their options are. If they're willing to go, whether it's to a detox center or to someplace, we'll then connect that person with the detox center. But we don't incur any cost by doing that. Besides the manpower of myself or also Monica Calva that out there doing it, but other than that, we don't incur any cost.
So how does the police work with the homeless coordinator from the city of Lawrence?
So she was been the homeless coordinator before I took on this role, but we have each other's cell phone numbers. So if I see someone that, we'll do our outreach. I'll be talking with someone and they say yes, I want housing. I'll call the homeless coordinator. She'll show up there and she'll get them. She'll speak with them and see what kind of service they have. It depends on. There's a criteria in which they can service someone, if they have monthly income coming in, if they don't have income coming in, if they're addicted, if they're not addicted. So there's a lot that goes into it. But our job as a police department is we identify someone who's homeless, and then I'll offer them services. If they in fact say, yes, I do want services, I'll then call in the homeless coordinator and she'll offer whatever services they have. She also will go out on her own and do her own outreach. She's been reporting back to us on who she's been contacting, and she tries to coordinate services for those people. If there's a time where she doesn't feel comfortable going into a certain encampment, she'll reach out to us and we'll send her someone to go in with them for obviously safety reasons. But it's really just cross communication.
So what happened when they say, no, I don't want any hearing, I don't want it?
So unfortunately, that happens more times than not. And what we're doing is by offering the services, being humane and respecting the dignity, when we have to take enforcement measures, we can take on the people that are criticizing us. So we did a good job, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. A lot of these agencies are motivated by not the most altruistic reasons, but they were also very skeptical of the police department. They thought all we want to do was enforcement. In the last few years, we were able to cultivate a relationship where we can do the balance. We as a behavioral health unit have now balanced our techniques, saying, hey, we want to offer services, we're humane, we want to give you the best chances as possible. But we're also an enforcement agency. So when you don't take those services, we now can do enforcement by saying, hey, I've offered you all these services, you're now trespassing, you have to leave. I'll give you a great example that happened last Thursday. We had a woman that was tented outside the DPW. We went there for 2.5 weeks. The homeless coordinator offered services. We actually had a place for her to go. She just didn't take it. She said she was going to, she didn't take it. I went back there to give her a final warning, and she goes, oh, I need housing. And I said, do you remember me? I said, I was here last week, I got you housing. She goes, oh, you're right, and got up and walked away. Now, unfortunately, she's still homeless. Unfortunately, she still needs services. But no one can be critical of the police department or the city, because we offer them. We sincerely offer you services. We will try to provide you everything that's humanly possible. But at the end of the day, we still have to hold you accountable for the quality of life that you're disturbing other people around you. So we as the police department have taken on this role of being conscious of people's downtroddenness, and we try to help you out, but we also are an enforcement wing of the city. So we've been balancing both those, and we're able to kind of set everyone's mind at ease that, hey, we're not just enforcement, we'll offer services, but we are enforcement. And there's two different populations we have to deal with: the people that think we're not doing enough enforcement, and the people that think we're doing too much enforcement. And we're caught right in the very middle, but I think we've done a very nice job balancing the two. You can see the success of our cleanups. We have some success stories of people that kind of got off the streets and got themselves, up and on their feet. And the people that don't take the services, well, that's an unfortunate reality of life that, I put my head on the pillow every night thinking, hey, I've done the best I can. I've offered the services. But at the end of the day, I also have to, be concerned about the kids that play the boy club. I have to be concerned with the people that live abutting the rail trail next to the West Street Park. I have to be concerned about the daycare that sits right adjacent to West Street. Those are also my concerns. We have to take on the concerns of the homeless, the concerns of the addicted community, the concerns of some of these clinicians that want to do, save, every single person we come in contact with. But the reality of our job is we have a very high, not a very high success rate. Many of the people won't take our services. Many of the people are so embroidered in their addiction that they're not taking our services, and that's okay. And it's unfortunate, but we then got to pivot and be concerned about the community that they're abutting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you for the work that you've been doing.
Thank you.
Councilor Del Rosario.
One question, what is the difference between somebody intoxicated with alcohol in public and getting arrested, and somebody that is high in drugs in public and not getting arrested?
Evidence. I think that alcohol and the proving of
You got
alcohol
Lieutenant Fleming with
intoxication is something that can be done. Even the courts have held that a layperson can determine if somebody's drunk or not. A layperson cannot give testimony as to whether somebody's high or not. Even an officer can. There could be something off with you. It could be mental. It could be actual drugs. Like, as people, we kind of know this guy's high or whatever, but can you prove it? So there is no difference, and I don't think that we have any, to my knowledge, any ordinance with regards to kind of being high. And then we have to distinguish, is it marijuana, is it pills, what is it? How do we prove it? How do we arrest? How do we enforce? So we have a little bit of an issue with regards to that. That's why public intoxication is alcohol, easy peasy. We can go in there, lock them up all day. We can, basically articulate in court to say red glassy eyes, unsteady on its feet, slurred speech, strong smell of alcohol, beverage emanating, blah, blah, blah. But when somebody's off on something, a pill or something, what is wrong? I don't know. Do we know if there's mental health issue? Do we know if it's this? You can't arrest if it's mental health, so that's our dilemma with that. That's our problem with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Officers, what is the goal for this item? Are you looking to send this up to the full council? Do you want to report it to the full? I think it's great, at least. I mean, what would you like this committee to do?
Well, what we'd like to do respectfully is try to bring some sort of awareness on what right now is a self-initiated initiative. And I think that for the sake of transparency, for the sake of, just informing our city council, stakeholders within the community about what we're doing, what we're trying to do, for now. There will be, once we're done with this particular phase, and I want to address something, Councilor Levy, before I forget as well, in just a second with regards to the homeless coordinator. Once we get to the second, we are going to be asking for your cooperation in soliciting a no tent law, or no encampment law or ordinance, whichever way. We're gonna come before you on that particular. We will kindly draft it for your review, for the city attorney's review. I don't think we're reinventing the wheel over here. Like I said, the Supreme Court has already, in Grants Pass case, has already given us the green light on that, and other communities are jumping on it, I think, sooner rather than later. We're gonna get to that. But for right now, and to Councilor Levy's question with regards to the homeless coordinator, at this point, the mayor's office has reassigned the homeless coordinator to our office. And the reason for that is because at this point, I have directed that we get down to the demographics of what we generally call the homeless. I want to know the exact numbers of who the local people are. I want to know who's coming, where they're coming from. If it's Lowell sending us a bunch of people, is it Boston sending us a bunch of people? I want to know why. I want to know who's giving them the tickets to come here. Somebody's facilitating this transportation, because we're going to address those issues in other ways, but we've got to stop it. And right now she's composing all the information for us. She's working hand in hand with Alyssa Coco, Director Coco of Lawrence Police Department. We're drafting maps, site maps, where they're going, where they're congregating. We're using data in order to follow it around and try to attack it that way, as opposed to, I think I saw them over here. We know where they're going, what's attracting them, and why, and we're going to attack it that way. But for now, right now, this is what the homeless coordinator is focusing on. So she's gathering all that data for us. Like I said, in the first phase. When we go to the second phase, now we're looking for more support with regards to ordinances. We're going to be looking for more legislative support as well. We are meeting with certain people that are going to be addressing some of the issues that you're talking about with regards to these methadone clinics. Does the need of our own community really support 2 separate methadone clinics? When the city of Lowell is bigger and they only have one, there's a lot of telling signs here of some of the stuff that we have to evaluate whether we need it or not. And when you are correct, I agree with you in that you say that a lot of this is business. A lot of people confuse nonprofit for no profit, and they're not the same. One is a tax designation, and the other is no profit. So, but either way, I've gone too far with the theoretical aspect of it.
Does it make sense to split this item into an A and B, like 459-24A, phase 1, and then you mentioned that you're going to come back for phase 2. That way, I guess it doesn't matter. We can just, yeah. Well, yep. I'm going to recommend for the committee to send this up as a committee report. What I would like, and I don't know if my colleagues agree, but if you could put a presentation together, even if it's just photos, so we can show the amazing work that you guys are doing and where this is heading. And also whomever you need to accompany you next week that is working with you, to the point of Councilor Del Rosario, your community partners should be supporting you on this, so everyone can see that this is truly a community effort that you guys are initiating.
I will say, before we come up there, Director Pimentel texted me, she was on her way here, she was unable to make it here, so we are being supported by community development, definitely.
Awesome, okay. Counselors, can I have a motion to send this up as a committee report?
So moved.
Just
Move.
motion, oh, Counselor Reyes, did you have any questions or comments before we move on? Are you good?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have question. Thank you for everything you guys do for us.
Okay, thank you. Motion has been made by Counselor Levy, seconded by Counselor Reyes. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in, roll call.
Counselor Gregory Del Rosario,
Yes.
Counselor Anna Levy,
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Madam Chair Stephanie Infante.
Yes, and the ayes have it. Thank you so much. We will see you next week.
Thank you, Councilors.
I know. Officer Cano, are you ready? Can I have, you have 2 minutes. Make it quick. Can I have a motion to untable item 439-23, 30-second delay at the traffic light / all in directions?
Second.
So move.
Motion has been made by Counselor Levy, seconded by Counselor Reyes. Roll call.
Counselor Gregory Del Rosario,
Yes.
Counselor Anna Levy,
Yes.
Counselor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
and Madam Chair Stephanie Infante.
Yes, and the ayes have it. Remind me, Counselor, I believe we sent this item to the city engineer for a review or study. I haven't heard back from him.
Good evening, councilors.
Hi.
Abel Cano for the record, 94 Maple Street, Apartment 2. I'm here in regards to the signal
Yeah.
signal lights, to try and have a delay on them, to try and help with the traffic accidents in the city. So I just wanted to add to the document that we have current. I think I added from December of 2023 up until this month of October, which we completed. So on file, I just want to add that I have the month of October. It's a 9-page report, and the number of accidents go up to 198. So we've been very consistent with almost 200 accidents every month since 2023. And how important it is to try and figure a way that we can get some kind of information from the city engineer and see how we can get this moving of a traffic delay, even if it's for 15 seconds. Something is something, and unless we start doing something to mitigate it, it's not going to get any better. And any life, any one person that we can save makes a difference. So thank you. My 1 minute.
Thank you. You had another minute, but, Maria, can you make a note? I'm pretty sure we sent this item to be reviewed by the city engineer.
Yes, there was information sent to the city engineer and as well as to the fire department, I believe.
Okay, can we make a note to both the clerk and, the city council secretary to send correspondence to them? Yep, so we can get an update on that. I think we should. Can I have a motion to resend correspondence to the parties just mentioned?
So moved.
Motion has been made by
Second.
Counselor Levy, seconded by Counselor Del Rosario. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Roll call, Counselor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Counselor Anna Levy,
Yes.
Counselor Gregory Del Rosario,
Yes.
Madam Chair Stephanie Infante.
Yes, and the ayes have it. All right, can I have a motion now to table item 439-23?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Counselor Levy,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Del
Again.
Rosario. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Counselor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Counselor Gregory Del Rosario,
Yes.
Counselor Anna Levy,
Yes.
Madam Chair Stephanie Infante.
Yes, and the ayes have it. Can I now have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I think that's the happiest. Motion made by Counselor Levy, seconded by Counselor De Rosario. Roll call, please.
Counselor Selena Reyes,
Yes.
Counselor Gregory Del Rosario,
Yes.
Counselor Anna Levy,
Yes.
and Madam Chair Stephanie Infante.
Yes, and the ayes have it. Thank you so much. Good evening and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting. Today is Monday, November 18th. It is now 7:14 p.m. Voting members present with me today, I have Counselor at Large Anna Levy, Counselor Wendy Luzon, Counselor Gregory Del Rosario, Counselor Fidelita Santiago. We have Counselor Reyes on Zoom, and now we have Counselor Mark LaPlante joining us. At this moment, can you please join me in a moment of silence for the Lawrence High teacher that the community lost last week. Thank you, and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2022, this meeting of the Committee of the Whole is being conducted both in person and via remote participation. Reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may either attend in person here in the City Council chamber or use any of our social media accounts for access. Councilors, we don't have any minutes to approve. We don't have new agenda items. Can I have a motion to untable item 236-24, home rule petition establishing credible service for police and fire, sponsored by me?
So move.
Motion has been made, Counselor Levy. Is there a second? Seconded by Counselor Del Rosario. Roll call, Counselor Levy.
Yes.
To untable. No, to untable. Counselor LaPlante. Counselor Luzon. Yes. Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Santiago.
Yes.
Counselor Reyes.
Yes.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. Do we have the CAFO here? Can we have our CAFO here? Okay, so we do have, there were some questions pertaining about actual budget, like hard numbers on how this would affect the city financially. Councilors have some questions. We have a letter that was sent to the council president from the Lawrence Retirement Board. And I know we have our CAFO here with us now. I know that the council president sent it to you for further analysis. Do you have anything that you would like to? Can you please summarize the letter and then add your findings on the city side?
Sure. Yeah, I received this memo, and I took a look at it today. And this memo contains three, at least the retirement board memo contains three proposed home rule legislation allowing three different fact patterns for people to get an additional pension. The first one was for a couple of police and fire employees that worked for the MBTA, but evidently the MBTA isn't part of the Massachusetts retirement system, so they weren't able to get creditable service for the time worked at the MBTA. Because what normally happens is if you work in another community, that community, our retirement board communicates to the retirement board for the other community, and the other community would accept responsibility for the creditable, for the years worked in that community, and we would bill that community each year for the effect of the pension effect of that employee. So the city of Lawrence is held harmless for those years of service. So the MBTA evidently, I'm sure, will not give them creditable service for the time worked there. Could be because either MBTA is not part of the state system, which I think is what they're inferring, or could be that the many state agencies have hired grant employees, and they as grant employees, they are not eligible for the state pension system, so the state customarily refuses creditable service for time worked as a grant employee, not as a state employee. So I suspect that's what item number one is. So, and I use it as an example. It's only going to cost the retirement board anyway. The actuary estimated it would cost about $3,000 a year. Additional to allow these two people to get 4 years of additional service. And that would only be funded, would only have to be paid till 2036 or when the person retires. But I just did a quick calculation. It's roughly, $4,000 to $5,000 using the state retirement's pension estimator, putting in 30 years and then 34 years at an estimated the same salary and so forth. It's about $4,000 to $5,000 per year. So it's $80,000 to $100,000 more to the taxpayers of Lawrence, who would pay for additional compensation for some employees, of which they don't have to contribute towards that pension. So item number two is, again, I think there's 7 members eligible for this provision, where there were on a call list of some sort, and they want to get time, even though they didn't work for the city of Lawrence, they want to get creditable time because they were on a list and weren't able to work. I'm not quite sure the logic of it, but apparently there's some unfairness that someone feels, but again, and I mention this all the time to my staff, I mean, Lawrence residents have to pay for this. It's not free money. This is additional money. Anybody who wants to work certainly and get creditable service, we have a guaranteed a system in our pension plan to give them those years of service. But when the city or the retirement board grants them creditable service for not working, well, that goes directly to the taxpayers because the employees aren't contributing towards those pension years. And the third, but the item 1 is limited to 2 people, item 2 is limited to, I believe, 7 people. But item number 3 is unlimited, and that is, it applies for people who got bypassed off a civil service exam in the past and in the future. So we don't know what that one's gonna cost. But it's not an inconsequential sum. I think the retirement board mentioned item number 2 is roughly $12,800. That would be added to the city's appropriation. We have to pay that appropriation until 2036, which includes past service cost. But going forward, we still have to pay a pension contribution every year to pay for the pensions of our city employees. So it's not gonna be $12,800, it's gonna be substantially higher than that. So these are, by approving this home rule legislation, it would impact this is several $100,000, not just a few $1,000s, impact to the taxpayers of the city of Lawrence.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions for CAFO? Councilor LaPlante.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure I got the right numbers. So for the first recommendation, I'm working off the Lawrence Retirement Board letter. That, for the 2 individuals that are there, that will cost how much for that? Is there a total, or is that just per year?
They have, the retirement actuary came up with, they indicate $3,000 per year.
Okay.
Until either fully funded or when the employee retires. And they quote, the cost is approximate but minimal, as written by limiting the members affected. This limits the cost impact for the city as well.
Right, so
it's
there's-
just the 2 employees.
Right, so that's limited. The second one, and I'm going to be asking if we have an opportunity, Madam Chair, the proponents, on number 2, if we go ahead and we do this, we understand that is going to be an appropriation of $12,800 annually, or just a one-time
That's
shot?
annually. I
okay.
believe it's annually. I think that's what their quote
But
is. But again, I don't think that's the full cost of this item.
I get it, so, but the point here is that only for those 7 individuals is for $12,800 annually. And I think you're going to make the point here in a little bit that this is more open-ended than the 7, and therefore that is just a small portion of it.
Well, this is limited to the 7, and the item number 1 is limited to the 2, which is a good thing. However, it's not just $3,000 or $12,800 for item 2. The cost is much higher than that. It's $12,800, I believe, per year. That's not, it says the rough estimate done by our actuary showing a cost increase to the city on its appropriation of $12,800. So I assume they meant per year, because we pay approximately, $20 million. Our pension assessment's approximately $20 million. It would increase that 20 million to 20,000, 12,800.
This is not costing $20 million.
No.
That way, you just give a big picture,
Yep.
how much it's costing everybody, everything all together, people, like you're about to do shortly with
Yep.
retirement,
It's
and
gonna-
others.
yeah, it's gonna
Okay,
increase our annual appropriation, according to the retirement board, by 12,800.
okay, and that's,
But it's gonna be forever, or until
Well,
these 7 employees.
gotcha.
are no longer on
But there is
businesses.
a sort of a limit there, it's not
Yes.
open-ended. But the place where, so I'm I get that, and that's gonna be a policy decision that I'm gonna be making for my vote, right? But the other one is, the last one here is the open-endedness, that others can go ahead, and beyond the 7. Are you suggesting that there is language there that says that there's more than just those 7, that the others can be?
Right, the way this is written, I'm going by the retirement board's memo, item number 3. It says members who are entitled to be hired by a police officer or firefighter but were skipped or bypassed for another person with a lower rank on the civil service hiring list. Eligible service is described, limited to the members granted relief from an order or agreement approved by the Civil Service Commission. Blah, blah, blah. After a bypass appeal, eligible members shall be credited with active full-time service from the bypass date to the date of the member's permanent appointment, as long as the bypass member accepts the first available permanent appointed offer to the member. And the retirement board's note is, if the time is being granted is small, the impact to the city will be minimal as shown above. However, not naming members or not having specifically members may leave this open for future members. So in other words, because it doesn't say it's for these 7 individuals or 3 or 4, we're agreeing to accept people who fall into this category now and in the future.
And the other question, so that's it, for me. So that would be, the nice thing about the retirement board's memo and the new language that's been written up is that it's paragraph 1, go to paragraph 1, so we can actually see it. So when the time is right, Madam Chair, I might be offering a motion, for example, on subparagraph 3, for example. That's going to be good to know. The other question I have, Madam Chair, is not with the council, but let me know when the time is right. I think I have a question for you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments specifically for the CAFO? Councilor Luzon.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair.
So this is going to open a door to other, and excuse me, but it's kind of confusing. And this is the second time that I get to see this in a meeting, but it still, it looks like this questions to be answered. You mentioned it's going to open a door to other employees? Did I misunderstood?
Well, let me, now that you mention it, let me just mention the other problem with this home rule petition is, say item number 1, we have 2 people. Well, maybe there's 3 people next year, and they're not part of it. We'd have to do another home rule petition, but why just these 2 people and not somebody else in the future? So once you go down this path, you're opening the door to other employees claiming, hey, these 7 individuals got this a couple of years ago. I think I fit that category now. Let me see if I can get a home rule petition. So, we have retirement laws. They're well-written, and they're written specifically for you work a number of years of service, we'll give you a certain percentage of a pension. And it's a pretty good deal. This is I think, asking the taxpayers again to pay for time not worked. I think that's a stretch.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, at this point, I'm going to ask the 2 proponents.
Madam Chair.
Councilor Luzon.
I think, based on the information that we have, there's still questions to be answered. And I don't understand why something like this is not open to public hearing. Because a couple mentioned that.
Because it's still in committee.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have questions that we asked during our first meeting that I'm assuming has some type of answers. You guys, we were all provided a sheet, and we're going to get further into the questions.
What I'm getting, Madam Chair, is that the couple keeps repeating that this could be an issue in the future for the city.
Yes, and it's the same message that he said during our first meeting, when we had less number, when we didn't have any numbers, I should say. Now we have an idea from the retirement board, and like I stated during our first meeting, when we discussed this item, us as counselors, every counselor individually has the right to vote yes or no. If whoever thinks this is good, you have the right to vote yes. Whoever thinks that this may not be good for the community, you have the right to vote no
Madam
on
Chair,
whatever
thank you for
motion.
reminding us our responsibility as counselors. But also, I think that people that are watching this via Facebook or YouTube, whatever it is, they need also the right to hear our concern. We are not
100%.
against it. We haven't
100%.
mentioned anything in that regard, but I think there's questions that are not completely answered, and what I hear from the couple is concerns. And I just wanted to be clear that he mentioned several times that he has concern about this home rule petition. Doesn't mean that we are against it. I think that there's questions that need more specific answers. And also, I want to know if this is going to be sustainable. If I may, through you, Madam Chair, if I can ask a couple, if this is going to be sustainable.
Well, we're underfunded now. This just puts us a little more underfunded, but it's, we're approximately, I don't have the last pension report, but I think we're 66 or 67% funded. But we're nowhere near the 100% where we need to be, which we're required to be by the year 2036. So it is, every year, the pension appropriation, which is approximately 20 million, goes up a little bit to pay for our past service costs, which pensions, people who retired and paid a very small contribution towards a pension. The city had to make up the whole thing, and we never set money aside each year until sometime in the late 80s, early 90s, we started funding our pension plan. And we've been working at it for, over 25 years, and we're still not 100% funded. So we're getting there. We're on a schedule to get there in 2036. But this just puts us a little deeper in the hole.
Thank you, Councilor De Rosario.
No, I just want to add, there's tons of questions, but this is what we're here for, right? This is not a time limit, so we can ask all the questions that we need to and get to the bottom of where we're going to vote. That's what we're here. That's what this meeting was conducted for, wasn't it?
Thank you, Councilor. At this point, I will call up, we have two proponents for this item, Mr. Mike Armano and Mr. Abel Cano. Please introduce yourselves for the record before I continue. I'm so tired.
Good evening, councilors. Mike Amano. I'm a firefighter here in the city, not here on behalf of the fire department or the union necessarily, just a proponent of this. And Abel, go ahead.
Abel Cano. I am also a police officer, but I'm not here on behalf of the department, on behalf of myself, and representing in regards to the item we're talking about. Address is 94 Maple Street, Lawrence, Massachusetts, apartment number 2.
Thank you, councilors, and thank you for taking this off the table for further discussion. I think what we see here is laws are not always well-written, and there was some mistakes made and some injustices done. And in some communities, we need a little bit different of a lens to get to a place where we have equity. And I think you see a lot of pieces here in some of these changes. So Abel and I had looked over this document and considered some of the comments, and we provided you with the document. I think John may have a copy of this to show on the screen, but we also have copies. Do the council have copies? Okay. We also have copies that we passed around to you, councilors, and I'll just briefly summarize what's happening. Again, you heard there's 4 main items. Certain government employees were looking to get credible service when they were working for a government entity that did not have a pension system, wasn't one of the 104 pension systems in Massachusetts. The other group is for employees who had reserve time, another group was for laid-off employees, and the last group was for bypass employees. Some of the concerns that we heard was the scope was too wide on this ordinance, and it needed to be narrowed a little bit. So concern number one was, it was brought up that, is it possible for someone to work for a year or two, get credible service, and retire early and get some type of pension? And the answer, the language in this document, as it stands today, would be an employee needs to be vested. They have to have 10 years. Another concern was the agencies. It was unclear. We only found one agency that did not have a pension plan, and that was MBTA. We couldn't find others, but based on concerns that it might be a wide scope, the scope was narrowed to just the MBTA, and it was taken further to name specifically the two affected employees in the city. So we have very specific people who were affected, and again, these employees were working for MBTA. They didn't have a Mass State pension system, and this would allow them to get credible service for that pension. The other concern was reserve list members. Before the changes that were made, it was wide open for today, reserve members of today and reserve members for tomorrow. Again, we narrowed that scope. There are probably a couple dozen members of police and fire that were on a reserve list. This got very, very specific, and it was changed to 7 members, 6 of which I think are actually really affected, who were cut off. They were basically given reserve time. I think it was a total of 2.5 years, about working, thinking that they had 2.5 years, and years later there was a court case that sliced their reserve time in half just because of a date that was set. Again, this was done 5 years after they were already working, and it only affected 7 out of maybe the 3 dozen reserve list employees that the city already has. So these 7 individuals did not have the opportunity to get their full 2.5 years. With that being said, the future members, we had a clause, in a perfect world, we would love to see all reserve list members, although we don't have any now. If the city chose to put reserve list members, we would love to see them have the same benefits. That was struck from here because we determined after hearing your concerns that it was too wide of a scope. So again, it's only the 7 members. The bypass members,
I'm sorry, what number concern? I'm trying to follow. Are
Oh,
we
I'm
number
sorry.
5, number?
For the sake of time, I probably should have warned you. I'm going down right now 4th, and I
Okay, thank you.
apologize.
Thank you.
Just in the interest of time. I'm now going down to the 7th issue, which is the bypass members. The bypass members, if you look at it this way, we have a civil service system, and it's supposed to be equitable and fair. And when people take a civil service test, they're typically residents of the city. Residents have preference to take this test. They pay money to take this test. They have to take the test year after year to get a chance to get hired. In fairness, if you score number 1 on the test, you should be the first one to get hired, and that's what the law states. But of course, the city administrations can bypass the number 1 or the number 2 person, take someone that's lower down the road, maybe they know them, maybe it's a patronage move, so they hire that person, and then the bypassed employees are stuck with nothing. They took the test, they played by the rules, they paid money to take the test, they're residents of the city. Again, usually residents get the top preference, and they get bypassed for no reason. What this does, if civil service deems that that did in fact happen, just as I described it to you, they took the test, bypassed for no reason, this would allow them to get that time back. This would also allow the city to realize that if you bypass someone unlawfully, they're gonna get the job eventually, and they deserve that time back. So
Which, sorry to interrupt you, from my
Yes.
understanding, which is another reason why I jumped on sponsoring this, I haven't 100% confirmed, but from my understanding, it has happened recently within the fire department at least.
Yeah.
Continue,
Yeah.
Mr. Hermano.
There's been two occasions in the fire department. I don't know of any in the police. And hopefully, if something like this were to pass, it won't happen again. We'll at least think a little harder before we bypass someone for the wrong reasons. Again, with this, with the language, the person would have to go before the commission, get some sort of judgment or agreement, and if they were deemed to be bypassed unlawfully, they would get that opportunity to get their time. All in all, we talked about this before as an opportunity to have flexibility in the retirement for police and firefighters to maintain their health and wellness in a time where they're doing a very tough job on their body, not just physically, but with the exposure to chemicals and other hazards. And this would allow them some flexibility in their retirement program. As far as the civil service system goes, of course, that last clause would give really us the opportunity to strengthen the civil service system as it pertains to the city of Lawrence and really instill integrity and fairness in that system. I just want to remind you also there was a lot of question of cost. The intention was to really narrow this down with the exception of the bypass clause, which could easily be narrowed by just not bypassing people in the future, and it would be zero cost. The other items were narrowed tremendously. There's no other, we did some research, and found the full list of employees that this affects. You have it, you have the cost. And I just want to suggest if it's a question of cost, what we started off saying in the beginning is, of course, you counselors have the right to shift any bearing of the cost to the employee if you deem that that's appropriate. The most important thing here is have that flexibility to have the time. And if you feel like the cost is a significant factor, then we ask that you still consider passing this, and if you need to amend it in a way that you feel comfortable that the appropriate cost shifts over to the employee so they have that choice to make. I'd be happy to give you any other opinions or answer any questions if you have any.
I see. Thank you. I'm going to go, I'm sure we have more counselors, but Councilor Plant, early on, you have mentioned that you have questions for the two.
Sure. So the CAFO made arguably a very good point, which was, why are we paying people who aren't working, right? And how do we justify that to the people we represent that we are going to be paying people who aren't working? And I think you started to go down that road with an answer. It's about equity and fairness, that these people were passed over, and they should not have been passed over. So I just want to make sure that is the right answer to that question, that it's a question of fairness. And then if that's in fact the case, I do have a follow-up question regarding remedies by law, by the courts or the administrative judges with respect to civil service laws, and when these wrongs take place, are there damages that can be awarded to individuals who are done wrong by the city? So there's a lot there. So if through you, Madam Chair, let's start with the first question, which is the question of whether or not, how do we respond to the fact that we have individuals who did not work for the city that are going to be getting paid by the city?
So, yes, it is about fairness in this particular case. Again, there's 7 employees only out of the few dozen that were on a reserve list that just got snipped, meaning they got some of their reserve time cut off. Now, when employees hired and put on a reserve list, when they're first taking these tests, again, they take tests year after year after year. Sometimes it takes 5 years to get hired. They may get lucky enough to go on a reserve list, and that stops the clock in a sense that they don't have to keep taking tests, but they know that they'll get hired. When they get on these reserve lists, they may change their career path completely. They may go get a degree at a college in fire science or law enforcement. They may not pursue other serious career opportunities in life because they finally got their ticket and it's just a matter of time before they get hired. So before the changes, the rule was across Massachusetts, if you were on a reserve list, you were given the benefit of up to 5 years of reserve time at no cost to you. And the way I see it, it was sort of a benefit to say, you're going to get hired, we want you to take this serious, you can start your career path and do what it takes, stay in shape, get educated however you want to, and you will be hired eventually. So it was a benefit. Would I like to see that benefit last forever and every person on a reserve list get that benefit? Yes, but in lieu of what we heard from you counselors, this would narrow that. It would actually stop the future reserves, just as the law says today, but it would make whole the 7 on the reserve list that did get cut off.
And by the way, through you, by the way, I do like the fact that you have made a good faith and serious effort to trying to bring some sort of caps to this, which I think you've heard, at least from one counselor and probably several, that was important. So I want to applaud you for trying to make them move in that direction. So I think that's a positive. So the court case, let me back it up for a second. So just so I'm clear, the 7 are going to be getting it. I could support that. It's number 3, the open-endedness of this for others, that when people now apply for a job or go through the civil service and they know they're going to be police officers, they know when they're doing this, they're not going to get paid for the time. The 7, however, are a different situation. They started it with potentially the understanding, they relied upon, use the legal framework, they relied upon the fact that they might, if they didn't get selected, that once they did, that time would be accredited to them. So now the situation is different between the 7 and the future. And so while I like the first 2 changes, I'm very uncomfortable with the third option, the third thing, which deals with the future and the open-endedness of that, because now we're not talking about equity. We're not talking about fairness. You could talk about it before, but you can't on this one. And that's the thing that, unless I'm misunderstanding it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, just a point of information.
Yeah,
I think you
please.
just went down a little bit off the wrong way. So item 1, again, was the government employees working for the MBTA. Item 2 was the reserve employees, only the 7 period. The second half of item 2, not item 3, was the open-ended reserve, which was cut out of this. So that's completely gone. Item
So
2 is only the 7.
This document that we have today, to make it clear for the public and for our committee, and I know you have the floor, Counselor, but the Counselor's concern about the open-ended is not included in the draft petition that we have in front of us today.
For item 2 reserved, that is correct, and I'm just going to touch upon item 3 again. Item 3 is open-ended and it's purposeful, and the intention is, I think we want it open-ended as a community to stop people from getting bypassed when they pay for an exam, they take it, and they're residents of our city and they're number 1 on their list. If they earn that right, they should be hired like civil service law says they should. So if we leave it open-ended, hopefully, anybody who's hiring in the city will recognize that we can't bypass people. There's a law that has to be followed. The flaw, as I see it, in this law is an administration could bypass someone. They could take the number 2 person, the number 3 person, and then the only remedy is for the resident who might not be educated, who might not understand civil service, to figure out that they can even appeal and have a bypass. And then once they do that, they get to civil service, and civil service's only remedy is, we'll get you next time. So now, everything they did, the years they took this test after test, waited for it, paid for it several times, we'll get you next time, in my opinion, doesn't cut it. It should be, we bypassed you, the city was wrong, and you're gonna get hired and get your time back.
So I'll reclaim the floor. So thank you for the explanation. Now I get the first 2. It's the third one that you brought, Crystal. And if we go ahead with this home rule petition, I'm not looking at 1 and 2. I'm not looking for the 2. I'm not looking at the 7. I'm looking at the last provision is the one that concerns me. That last provision, tell me, are there any other communities in the Commonwealth that have adopted the 3rd provision? I think I know the answer.
Yeah, I don't know of any, but I hope we can lead the charge.
Right. I think the answer is, I can't say this with certainty, but I think the answer is no. And I think that we need to work on the first 2, and then on that 3rd one, there is a remedy, and I get it, but people are going in with their eyes wide open, and I guess shame on whichever municipality it is that decides they're going to do what they're doing. And I guess I don't know the other side of the equation. You paint it in a very nasty way. It's patronage, it's favoritism, it's all this stuff, and that very well may be the case because their scores did not match up, and they got leaped over. But I'm going to say most communities, because I want to say all, but I'm not 100%. Most, if not all, communities have not adopted this. probably for good reason. And I don't think that the city of Lawrence should be the one community that's going to be standing out on this particular matter. It should be a fix made by the state legislature so that we have it throughout the Commonwealth, not municipality by municipality. So if we're really looking to make a fix, bring in the delegation, bring in a resolution. If you want to sponsor a resolution that says the sense of the city of Lawrence and the sense of the city council that we approve, that they tighten that up, I would sign on to that. I would sign on to that. But just to have us be an outlier like this, that doesn't make me feel all that comfortable for the cost and other things. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I'm
See,
sorry, Council. I apologize. We did forget one item. Sorry. We did take out the laid-off employees, which was originally part of the language, and if you remember, the reason we took that out is there was already language in the state law from the Acts of 1994, Chapter 235, I believe, that gave us the ground rules, and it's open for this council to approve as it's written by the Commonwealth. So I wanted to point that out because this was a large part of this also. These were the laid-off employees, and it is that it was taken out. So I would just propose to you if you would consider adopting the Acts of 1994, Chapter 235, which would also include the laid-off employees. And you do, this is also part of the numbers that you received in your packet, I believe.
That was page 21 of the packet. Page 21 of the packet that was sent by email.
and this is, again, already a state law, to just emphasize on that.
It looks something like this, this is the actual Acts of 1994.
The bottom of the page has the number 925 at the bottom. So it's just the first paragraph, the top paragraph, not the bottom paragraph. Section 1, correct.
Yep. This was approved 1994. So just quickly, let me read this real quick. Chapter 235, an act further regulating the rights of certain firefighters and police officers, be enacted as follows. Section 1, in a city, town, or fire district which accepts the provision of this, I think that's, sorry, this is a little blurry. A firefighter or police officer whose employment was terminated due to a reduction in force and substantially was reinstated to his former position within 3 years of termination shall be credited with active service for such period of unemployment. Such credited service shall be included as part of his/her length of service and shall be applied to his/her seniority, promotional examinations, and retirement provided. However, that said officer, firefighter, or police officer shall be required to pay into the annuity savings fund of the retirement system in one sum or in installments upon conditions as the retirement board shall prescribe, an amount equal to the accumulated regular deductions otherwise payable by him/her had he/she remain an active member in service during said period of employment at the rate of compensation when compensation he was receiving at the time of the something termination. Sorry, this is blurry. Termination of employment together with regular interest thereon to his/her date of reinstatement, and provided further that said firefighter or police officer shall be required to pay into the annuity savings funds of the retirement system in one, I mean, they already said this, in one or some in one sum or installations upon conditions as the retirement board shall prescribe, and an amount equal to the accumulated regular deductions withdrawn by him/her, if any, with regular interest to date of his reinstatement. Section 2, nothing contained in this act shall be continued to require as condition for such credit the payment of any additional sums other than sums required pursuant to Chapter 324 of the Act. And then the rest, I can't really read it, but this was approved by the state on December 27, 1994. And now, some councilors would like to hear from the CAFO.
I think I can explain that basically, if someone was laid off and buy back their time, in the legislation, it states that the employee has to pay into the annuity savings fund, is the retirement withholdings out of our paycheck each week. We currently withhold roughly 11% from your pay and pay it into the retirement system, which goes towards your payment of your pension. So in that statute, if you accept it, would at least require them to pay in. I don't have any of the information you have, councilors, I just have the retirement board memo. But the retirement board memo specifically is asking to credit their service, but not pay in anything, not pay anything to the annuity savings account. For example, also item number 2 in the retirement board memo, it also qualifies, the state passed a law, and PAIR Act memo came out in 2020 stating that people who did have a reserve time and it was less than $5,000 per year, you don't get any credit for that. Many of them were given credit, and many of the retirement boards had to go through their records and take that increase in their pension away and make them repay everything per the new ruling or the new court case. So anybody, if you were on a reserve list and you made $2,000 a year, according to the law, you can't get credit for that. This home rule petition negates what the court case says, or the Supreme Court, whatever it may be, and gives them credit, and they don't have to pay. So that's the other thing I think that at least they should pay
So
for those years.
is
of
that
service.
relatable to what, to the act?
It is. It's exactly the same. In other words, these things here are getting time. That, for example, the law is for getting laid off. This one's for working at the MBTA. But we're giving people time, and we're not asking them to at least pay the 11% wages. And that's the common denominator in 1, 2, and 3. There's no provision to at least pay the cost as that legislation was written. Hey, we'll
Right.
give you credit if you got laid off, but you at least got to pay what you would have paid in had you been employed.
Which we did hear from the proponents. If the council, I mean, we are the policymakers, if the council chooses to make any changes on this proposal, and if we choose to have the employee pay in or et cetera, we are the body to do that. And we did hear that from the proponents, if it's an avenue that the council chooses to go on. Any other, Counselor, you still have the floor. Do you have any?
At time, I'd like to offer a couple of amendments, but once the debate is exhausted, I'd like to offer that.
Okay, are you guys all set?
Just want to reiterate, knowing where this may go from what I'm hearing now, if there's an opportunity, even with the third item, which was the bypass, if there was an opportunity to add anything, instead of taking away that clause, give that person the opportunity to purchase at full cost, so there's zero cost to the city, but let them at least get their time back. That would be my only ask if there's any amendments. Other than that, I appreciate your support and your hearing all of this and your consideration.
Thank you. Counselors, any final questions or comments? Seeing none, Counselor LaPlante.
Sure, so a couple things. One is, I'd like to
I'm sorry, Counselor. Actually, no. Counselor Reyes did not. She's on Zoom. And Counselor Reyes, are you okay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be good. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
Councilor Pam, I
Yes,
apologize
so
for that.
with the Capo's help, I'd like to, Capo, with your help, that's my cue. I'd like to offer an amendment that talks about the buyback, not the payment of, by the, I'm not even sure the civils, bypass individuals, correct, thank you. And make that as an amendment, and I'm not sure how to artfully word that. And that would only be, would it be in both of those, in 1 and 2, or that would just be in number 2?
Well, I think it should be in all of them. I mean, if we're going to give credit for time not worked, at least we'll give you the service, which is what they're looking for, but at least pay, kind of follow the legislation that's in the layoff provision. That language should be followed for these other 2 provisions. At least pay your fair share.
So my question to that parliamentary question, who is the author of this? Who has the motion right now? So I can ask for a friendly amendment. Has there been a motion made?
So no, there hasn't been a motion
I'd like to
made.
make a motion there. I'll take this. I'd like to make a motion that, that we approve this document with the following caveat, with the following amendment, that on 1 and 2, that the, that's okay. That's all right. I guess I'm going to back up for 1 second. So that's my motion. My motion is to approve. I want to amend my own motion in a second. My motion is to approve this document. Start off with that.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm going to amend it now.
Seconded. Discussion.
Discussion. I'm going to amend it. So what I need right now, Capo, is what I want to do is honor the spirit of what you're saying, which makes a lot of sense to me. That if you're going to be getting some monies from the city, you should at least buy back some of your time. And I want to know, is that applicable in 1? I know it's applicable in 3. Is it applicable in 1 and 2, or just 3?
Should be in all 3, because if, in 1, for example, they worked and earned X amount of dollars at the MBTA, what was their salary, because they would have contributed 11% if they could have, the retirement board can calculate it as to what the amount owed would be.
The artful way of saying that is for 1 and 2, so in accordance with the calculations by the retirement board to determine the buyback amount, would that be the artful way of saying that?
I would base it on that legislation, because the language was actually spelled out in that layoff provision. I would copy the language from that. Or again, ask the law department to draft something that would be appropriate.
Similar, yeah.
So so that's the intent. So I'll let the
Yeah.
legal scholars
Yeah,
upstairs figure out the proper way to word that. So that will be for 1 and for 2. This is my motion, so that's part of my motion now. The second part of it is removing the,
So can we vote, can we do 1 amendment at a time?
but since this is my motion, I get to amend it without the need for a second.
Oh,
Madam Chair,
Councilor
And
Pam has the
thing,
floor.
I know what you're gonna do, so let me do my last one, and then you can do that. So the last one is to remove, parentheses 3 on page 2 of the home rule petition. That's the one that has the language about we're not sure where this, how many people in the future. It deals with that issue. So removing that, and that's gonna be part of this motion as well. So 1 and 2 deal with the buyback provision by the potential employees, and removing paragraph number 3, or paragraph 3. There.
discussion, can I? Madam Chair,
Councilor Luzon.
and I understand that we are, I think we in favor, but we still have, what we have in front of us is not clear. I think, and your suggestions, Councilor LaPlante's suggestions are great. It brings more light to this item, but also there's nothing clear in front of us to approve. So hopefully, if we can get the right, it sounds this is going to be something legal, but we don't want to leave an open door. So if we table this item and we can get something more concrete in front of us to approve, because the way it looks like right now, it's going to leave an open door. And I believe that we have concern about approving something that can leave an open door. And also, taking in consideration the type of concern, I think we should have something more concrete in front of us to approve.
Thank
If
you,
we're gonna go
Councilor.
that way. Because right now, it doesn't look like it is an open end item.
Thank you, Counselor. Did you, any other? Okay, so the motion is to approve, to craft the language for 1 and 2,
And to remove number 3,
and remove number 3.
which takes what Councilor Luzon is concerned about, the ambiguity, about the unsureness of what's going on. If we take that out, we know 1 and 2 what the costs are. We know what the dollar amounts are. In 3, we don't know. So that, I think, addresses some of my colleagues' concerns.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be, so Maria, make sure that we have a note for the city attorney to have an updated draft for the full council next week. Okay, any other questions or comments? Councilor Levy.
Thank you. So we're going to extend it to the full council, or we're going to table? Because I know that Councilor Luzon asked for table.
We have a motion right now to approve. Either whether we table it or send it up, it still needs to go to the city attorney. So
Yes,
it's still the
yes.
same process.
Yes, I know that we should send it to, for the right language on
Yeah.
what we've been discussing here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have something to add, Mr.?
Yes, I just want to remind council about the acts of 1994.
And to adopt the Act of 1994. I mean, yeah.
So the interesting thing about that is that the acts of 1994, it doesn't need to be part of a home rule petition. We are granted the authority by ourselves to go ahead and do that. This is we are about to vote home rule petition, so it's like apples and oranges. So if there is an opportunity to insert this as a standalone, that's one thing, but to include it in something that shouldn't be going to the legislature, which is what this document is, it doesn't jive.
Thank you, Councilor, for the clarification. That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, seeing none, we're going to do roll call. I'm sorry? Councilor Del Rosario. All right, Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor LaPlante.
Yes.
Councilor Luzon.
With the amendment?
With the amendments. Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Santiago.
Yes.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you so much. We will see everyone next Tuesday. Well, I'm saying to the, now can I have a motion was made. Oh, I'm sorry. It was sent up for the full council as a favorable recommendation. That was the motion with the amendments that Councilor LaPlante suggested. And to the city attorney, yep.
Madam Chair, could I just ask one point of clarification? Were you suggesting through you, Madam Chair, Councilor LaPlante, that the acts of 1994 be brought up as a separate item, or was that going to be a separate motion?
It's my opinion that it should be a separate item because now you're clouding two different things. And so to make it streamlined, I think it should be its own separate item. My opinion. That's my opinion, yeah. I'm not a parliament, I can't make the parliamentary rules, but that's my opinion. I'd like to make a motion as well, council, just because we rarely meet.
Yep.
There's items on here that we can get out. For example, if there's no objection, I'd like to take document 21321, eliminate, this is 3 years ago, eliminate MCAS assessments that use money to teach life skills, K through 12, vocational, creative, hands-on activities. The voters just voted on MCAS.
Motion to
So-
withdraw item 213, probably seconded by Councilor Santiago. I always want to say Fidelina. Councilor Santiago. No discussion. Roll call. Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor LaPlante.
Yes.
Councilor Luzon.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Santiago.
Yes.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
And the chair votes in the affirmative.
One more thing, Madam Chair, just for housekeeping. I don't see the need why we would keep 6322 here. I would make a motion to untable that and to withdraw that.
Motion has been made, seconded by Counselor Levy. No discussion. Roll call. Counselor Levy.
Yes.
Counselor Platt.
Yes.
Counselor Luzon.
Yes.
Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Santiago.
Yes.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. Any other, you good? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion has been made, probably seconded. All those in favor say aye. Oh,
Aye.
there's a roll call. Counselor Levy.
Yeah, you forgot me too.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. For the, yes, okay. Counselor Platt.
Yes.
Counselor Luzon. Yes. Counselor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Counselor Santiago.
Yes.
Counselor Reyes.
Yes.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.